Hi, my name is Kim Stroud, and I'm going to talk about my favorite part of the brain, which is the amygdala. The amygdala is specifically the emotional center of the brain. It triggers the fight or flight response and to stress. So it's really important that we get to know the amygdala. It also helps with pleasure, fear, social skills, addiction. It can also it stores like horrifying memories and vividly into our life that we have in our lives. So it's pretty intense. Reasons that I picked this topic was I work in OT and I work with patients. I've all the way from preschool on up to elderly, and I've had a lot of people that I've often wondered why the people do the things they do and behave the way they do. It intrigues me. Some of the diagnoses that I see specifically, it has a strong correlation with the amygdala. You have your mild mental illness issues, such as anxiety and bipolar, and those are the non-aggressive types of mental illness. Most of the people have issues with the amygdala. I guess the fight or flight response isn't quite as working, and so that's where you end up with an anxiety disorder. And it's really stressful for people who have, if anybody's ever had an anxiety disorder. I specifically have had one, so I had very challenging to try to get through and get better with that. So the amygdala is a huge part of the brain that helps control that. Then there's the more violent mental illnesses out there that schizophrenia, not necessarily all schizophrenia, but some, and then they have people who become mass murderers. And, often there is an issue with their amygdala. So, if you've ever wondered why people go out and just kill a ton of people, it's usually amygdala has got some problems. So one of the things also is PTSD. I've worked with patients who have PTSD, and they have vivid memories from horrific things they've seen in the past. And so it's often challenging to try to help them because it's so painful. The other thing when it comes to anxiety is I've done some research on mass anxiety, and they've decided that in the stuff I've read that the math anxiety is a huge problem, because once you have severe anxiety and while you're doing math, you often can't learn, and so it becomes a huge issue of what you can do. And when it comes to autism, I see these kids walk around and they have huge problems with social skills, and they don't read people's faces when people are angry, and they don't understand that whole emotional center and the whole social skill. So it's often, now they're saying there's a correlation with the amygdala, so that there's some issues, like they might have issues with the amygdala, and that causes that. So we often have to teach our kids how to greet people, how to be nice to people. I found it interesting. One of the articles I read was about these two women standing next to each other, and the one woman isn't able to respect the other woman's boundaries. Typically we have about an arm length away from someone and to be comfortable, but with someone who has issues with their amygdala, they may be right up next to you, way too close and it's uncomfortable and they don't read that. So you have to teach people, I often have to teach people like this, you know, an arm length away is how close I'm comfortable with you. And, you know, not to get mad about it, just to simply teach someone that. So I find it interesting that amygdala is definitely a control center for that too. So we really need to like continue to learn more about the amygdala so that we can help people. So it's really painful to have all these issues in your life, even with anxiety or with anything. So often we run into psychopaths and we just have no clue that, I wouldn't say often, but there are psychopaths out there, and they have issues with their amygdala. So hopefully someday we can address these issues, even get more information on how to fix the amygdala, and that there'll be a cure for it. They're now doing studies with babies, trying to figure out at what point, you know, you can get diagnosed with all these issues, even as an infant. So, thank you for your time.